that I'm not going to be streaming anything after this. Just feels wrong.
What are you guys doing? Watching a movie or just hanging out or something?
Just going to have dinner and hang out.
We've been watching Dexter. That's been our thing recently.
Well, last night, Dana was watching another Hallmark movie because they've got the Valentine's Day ones up now. Do you only watch the...
Yeah, we only watch Christmas.
Okay, so it's not a year-long obsession for you guys.
No. Is it for her?
I think so. I think she'd watch them because they're basically always coming out. So I think she watches all of them. I didn't really know before this year. This is the first year that we've lived together. And then Christmas was like the first season that they were there. But she also, I don't think she had a way to watch them before until I saw how distressed she was that she might miss them. So got the like Stack TV or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Kelsey has that too.
But anyways.
Are we live, by the way?
We are.
Okay.
So welcome to Hallmark Moments, the only Hallmark movie discussion pod. There's got to be podcasts that are about those, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But welcome everyone to Tapcaf Transmissions, one of many Star Wars podcasts. I am your host for the day, Corey, joined as always by my co-host. I didn't want to say effervescent again because it didn't sound like you were really glowing as we were coming into this one. But Eck, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm probably not effervescent, but I am good. Having really cracked down all week. Took some time to read Crimson Empire 1, our first comic in a while. So it's been nice. It's been nice.
Yeah, we've done the Dark Empire comics. We're going to be doing the Crimson Empire comics over the next few weeks. So today we are talking about Crimson Empire 1, which is issues 1 through 6. Did you read all 6 issues, or did you just read the first issue of Crimson Empire 1?
I did, in fact, read all 6. Okay. Read all 6 issues.
It's a time sink, so it's...
You don't really read issue 6, though. You kind of like...
It's not a whole
scan,
lot. Yeah,
it's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, there was a bit of that in 4 or 5 as well, where it's just the one fight that goes on for a few pages. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, the assault on the base. You mean?
Yeah.
So
we'll get to that, but like wearing the Imperial armor during that assault, while fighting, yeah, Kerr messed up there. But there's a lot of questionable decisions by a lot of people in these 6 issues. So that's going to be our plan for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Today, Crimson Empire 1, the next week Crimson Empire 2, Crimson Empire 3 after that, and that'll be leading us into Victory's Price, the 3rd Alphabet Squadron novel. So some big things coming. But before we get into Crimson Empire, anything you wanna share with the peoples?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think of anything happened this week besides the Dina Carano stuff, which is just not even worth discussing. I don't think. No, not really. I think I'm good. Any news in the old land of Corey?
No.
Wow, what a great podcast we have.
Well, that's more of the X2 podcast topics. No one cares about our actual lives. We could talk about them for like 45% of an episode and just not bother with our topics sometime. We kind of do that halfway through, but like we could start that way at some point. And then we're really
a couple episodes like that. Like I remember the episode where... Remember when all the copyright stuff was happening and we both had made a bunch of videos on it? I think we talked about that for quite a long time.
Yeah, but that's still kind of topical. And even the thing, I think it was even like last episode on Darksaber, where we just started talking about basically whatever random jokes we thought we needed from the book. But that was still the book. But like we've never had an episode other than maybe some digressions on like obscure Canadiana that we just only talk about ourselves. And
tell me something that happened in your life this week, Corey.
Justin, you know nothing ever happens in my life.
Okay, I'll go first. So we go to this little cafe where I live, and well, it's actually quite a drive. It's like 40 minutes from my house or around there. We drive there once a week because it's a cafe.
A tap cafe?
No, unfortunately. You can't get booze there, but it's a board game cafe, just a regular cafe, but also it's for kids. during the day, at least, like at night, they have it so they do trivia and stuff. But during the day, they've got a whole big playroom for kids. And Gus is old enough that we go there once a week and we just basically say, "All right, Gus, like go play." And then Kelsey and I will just hang out and do whatever. Um, and they have like all of these things there. Like they've got any new like doohickey or gadget or whatever they have. And one thing they have is this. So when you order a latte or a foamy drink, you can send them a picture like in an app, and they'll put it on your drink. Like, have you seen that before? Like the kind of the foam art or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've got a machine
Like
that does
hearts and
this.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like hearts and stuff. And Kelsey got one of the kids, and I was like, "Oh, that's really cute," but also it's like you're drinking our children. It's like Soylent, like made of humans, but the drink is made of children.
Well, it's a picture of it, but like a lot of food has stuff on the wrapper
Yeah,
that you wouldn't
that's
normally
true.
eat. It's like
That's
that.
true. It was cute. I mean, it's free as well, so
Yeah.
why not, right? This
Yeah.
place is
Like
awesome though.
I
We
don't think
go
you need to
in.
worry about the moral implications of
No,
drinking
no,
pictures
no.
of your kids. It's like when people have a birthday cake and they get like the picture print screened onto it.
Hmm.
You're even closer to eating the kids with that, but I don't think
No, yeah, that's a good point. No,
they're just
I love
always
this.
part of you at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that is one way to think about it. It was kind of weird though, because it was like the way they made it, it's like the foam was the last thing there. So even though she was drinking it, it's like the last thing was like the picture of the two children in the bottom of the cup. Um,
Distorted, like screaming.
yeah. But no, this place is awesome. We go once a week. We drop Gus off. He fucks off and does his own thing for like 2 hours. This time we played the game of life. Pretty fun.
Wow.
And we get lunch there, and it's really new. So there's all their shit is still really underpriced. So I'll leave like a $30 tip. And I go home. Great. We're doing that tomorrow.
That sounds epic.
Yeah. So tell me something about your week, Corey.
Well, it wasn't this week because again, nothing happened in my week mostly. But our anniversary was a few weeks ago,
Oh
and
yes.
we played more Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which I
Mm-hmm.
think we have agreed is the best game in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for that one, it was the Jack the Ripper cases. So
Mm-hmm.
I started just like researching Jack the Ripper stuff afterwards, and they apparently have pictures of the victims for some of them, and yeah, disgusting, and that's burned into my mind forever.
Jack the
So
Ripper victims.
it's the last one who was like really eviscerated. It's really not good. I do not recommend looking it up seriously, but I will send you a picture afterwards if you do want to
Stuff
see
doesn't
it.
really bother me. I don't know why. I mean, in real life, I'm sure it would be, but a picture.
All right, well, that's what I normally think, but it's the last one is pretty bad.
Jack the
And
Ripper.
but anyways, we're talking about Crimson Empire. Uh, all six of the first issues there.
Mm-hmm. So Crimson Empire is kind of interesting because it came out, I guess, similar time as like the X-Wing novels, wasn't it? Like
Yeah,
kind of late 90s.
yeah, I think it was
And
98.
yeah. So it's kind of nice because it does. Oh yeah, that's pretty gross.
Did you
It's
see the Mary Jane Kelly one?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, look at that.
yeah. It's not. Don't.
Doesn't it? Yeah. I think it's worse based on the fact that they use such crappy cameras. Kind of makes it a little creepier.
I don't know if I guess it makes it creepier, but it's just I don't know. I wouldn't want to see that in better quality.
No, probably not. Anyway, it's so yeah, 98, kind of similar to X-Wing in that it came out kind of after the timeline had been somewhat established and they're filling in stuff. So this one obviously ties in quite heavily with Dark Empire because the whole thing is the Crimson Empire is kind of Karnor Jack's. He kind of assumes control over at least a portion of the Empire and the kind of power vacuum left by Palpatine's death. And we learn in the comics as well that I don't remember if there's any hints of this in Dark Empire or not, or if they play on this angle that Palpatine's doctor had also been sabotaging his clone bodies
Yeah,
by
it's like
order of.
on Carnor Jax's order to like poison
Mhm.
him. Uh, yeah, I don't know that that ever really does get mentioned anywhere else, and it doesn't end up mattering because,
Yeah,
well, I
Colonel
guess that
Jax
could be
is.
why like Palpatine kept decrepifying, but he didn't seem to
Mhm.
mind that much.
Yeah, I mean, the comics also explained as his body's just not powerful enough for to hold his spirit. Um,
It's like that song about Palpatine. I'm too epic for my body.
I remember that one. But like in Dark Empire, Palpatine also suggests that like this is something he's been going through for a while
Yeah,
because he says like I've died before and I'll die again.
yeah.
Um, it's just like heart attack, falling down the stairs, like wrong place, wrong time. But
His coffee was too hot one morning.
autoerotic asphyxiation. Um, but yeah, so Cardinal Jax is kind of interesting because he doesn't just he for one, Jax is one of Palpatine's guards, one of the Red Guards. But also he's got some force powers. He's kind of holds himself up as being the next great Sith Lord. I'd say we don't really see evidence of that
Well,
in the
he's
comics.
also, it gets expanded in that he's like been trained by Lumaya and they're kind of
Hmm.
like a Sith duo at some point. The Sith kind of go off the rails after Palpatine, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like Cadus is the only one other than Crate, but that's even more off the rails.
Hmm.
That uses the Darth title for the next little while.
Hmm.
So, do Lumaya and Karnor count? Should they count? Should Jason then actually count as part of like the Banite Sith?
Hmm.
It's all kind of up in the air,
From
and
what I remember, the Lumaya stuff is all from that one article on StarWars.com,
yeah.
right?
But
From
that's
the
how like all lore works, where it's just thrown in later.
it's like one day Abel Pina, or I think I'm not sure how you say his name, but he decides that he's gonna make things make sense. Sometimes make things make sense, other times just make the lore a little bit cooler.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
but
I really like that article though. It's got some cool stuff in it. That's the Emperor's Pawns, I think, because I read that the other day. It's cool.
yeah, like the end notes, and there's for Essential Guide to Warfare, there's also like the end notes
Hmm.
that Jason Fry wrote, but there's also the director's
StarWars.com articles.
commentary where there's like all this extra information on stuff that was cut or supplementary
Hmm.
information on everything. There's so much stuff there. It's like our entire careers are
Yeah,
based on that information too.
yeah. Like I remember, there's one thing about the hyperspace barrier in one of those
Hmm.
articles. I think that was an end notes to Essential Guide to Warfare. Um, it might have been Essential Atlas, though I can't remember, or not end notes. It's like supplementary information.
Yeah,
And I've talked to somebody who explained as well that there were plans for more of those as well. There's going to be a whole thing about New Republic battle carriers, which would have been really cool.
wow,
So like the Blue
Blue Diver.
Diver and the Mediator and stuff. And the what's the Star Destroyer as well? The Galactic or the what's it called again?
The Galactic class or the Turbulent class. There were two classes of
Yeah,
Star Destroyers.
pretty sure Galactic class Star Destroyer or something.
Battle carrier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it was. Yeah, but that was going to be featured as well. But that never got made, unfortunately, which is too bad because that would have been cool. But
Hmm.
yeah. So we don't see Jax use a lot of his force powers. He throws his yoga ball around the bridge of his Star Destroyer.
And he does
Um,
mention that things are insignificant next to the power of the Force. So
mhm.
there's at least that, but
He uses like a little bit of the force in his battle against Kirkanos, but I think he's a bit of a pretender, to be honest.
yeah, he has the ruling council under him, but at this point the Empire is so broken up
Hmm.
that it's hard to paint anyone as being directly the ruler until uh, the Moff Council is kind of back under uh,
Yeah.
Pellion's military rulership. Because, like, yeah, Dala kills a bunch of the warlords and brings their forces together, but
Hmm.
she hasn't brought the Pentastar alignment together with them. She hasn't really gone to the Moff Council. It's really not until Pellion that there's any kind of unity in the Empire
Hmm.
again. But
And then
uh,
even then, there's like the Essential Guide to Warfare talks about how like Pelion's being undermined with like
mhm.
poor military campaigns and shit all the time.
And there's the replacement warlords in the core that Dal is kind of unifying again.
Mhm.
But
So yeah, there's it's this is a very kind of small period of time. I mean, it is just a few comics. I do think it fits pretty well into the rest of the lore, though,
Yeah.
especially if you see the Crimson Empire as a relatively small part of the overall empire. I think that fits in quite well.
Well, at the time, there wasn't really that much else going on. Like the Empire is kind of in that northeast corner, and there's still some remnants of what the Dark Empire had kind of captured, but they weren't really being administrated anywhere. So this is kind of the primary conflict in Crimson Empire. One is between Carnor Jax and Kirkanos, another royal guard who's upset that Carnor Jax turned against the Empire. And he works with some New Republic forces on Feda.
He's not friends with them, by the way.
No, not friends. Very clear about this. No.
We're not friends, he says as one of his last lines.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love the New Republic officer. Her last name's Sin. I forget what her first name is. But she's always like trying to defend him, and he's like, "Oh, he's got a good heart he's got a heart of gold," and she's like, "I'm doing this because he killed the Palpatine, and I frankly don't give a shit about what you guys are doing, and I'm gonna kill your lizard later." In a really kind of
it was weird that he says that early.
Yeah,
but yeah, like when people tell you who they are, believe them. That's kind of what it comes down to. And
yeah, for sure.
But is any character ever as consistently wrong as Sin is in this? Like, she's wrong about almost everything she does at every point. I can't think of one good decision she makes.
I can't think of too many. No, she fucks up. She fucks up.
We could probably reread all the comics in the time that we'll be doing the podcast because it's very short. But
yeah,
she's wrong on every decision that she made.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about the actual comic quality itself. What did you think of the art, the paneling, the writing?
Right, so
it's obviously different than a book. Personally, I don't get nearly as engaged in comics. I find, especially during fight scenes, I've got a tendency to just kind of scroll through. While I'm reading these ones digitally or flip through. That's kind of something that I've got to like purposefully try not to do. Well, what about you?
Yeah, like, so we've done 2 comic series now for the podcast, which is Dark Empire and Crimson Empire. So that's kind of my main point of comparison. Like, I like the art style a lot better here than in Dark Empire, especially Empire's End.
Oh, really? Okay.
But maybe not quite as good as like Empire's End.
Dark Empire 1 and 2
is not good, I don't think. But I kind of like the more defined shapes and colors here.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But for me,
it's not very stylistic, if you know what I mean. Like Dark Empire 1 and 2 are very stylistic, and if you don't like it, like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue.
Well, I'm mostly thinking of like, how easy is it going to be to model anything that comes up into the mod? But so that helps. But like, we've kind of done some of the Dark Empire and Crimson Empire are kind of on the goofier end or the cheesier end, which doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. It just means that's kind of the style of comic like that comics tend to lean to. And not all Star Wars comics are like that, but it's not typically my favorite style. So like, I'm not huge on either Dark Empire or Crimson Empire. I did enjoy Dark Empire 1 and 2. I wasn't as into this story because like I find like Kirkanos is the main character essentially, and he's really bland. Unless you count like Mirith Sin.
He gets a little more interesting later on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But here he's just like, I'm mysterious. I'm a mysterious guy. I'm not your friend. I have no one. And do I have anyone? No, I have no one. But like, yeah, so that's kind of.
Yeah. My main problem with comics, I think, especially these shorter comic runs, like the defined comic runs like Dark Empire or this versus something like the X-Wing comics, is that the story always feels pretty truncated and like they're fitting a lot into 6 issues. So I just, the pacing, it's just a thing because I'm not a big comic guy, and like this is just a kind of fundamental difference between how comics and books work, I think. But yeah, there was a lot I like though. Like I do like how much Star Wars, they managed to fill in one page. Like I noticed lots of cool aliens, like even Yak Face from Jabba's sail
Mhm.
barge. I saw one of him in here. That's one of my favorite alien types. I can't remember the name of them, but
Yeah, the ruling council, like
Child
just
Marie,
based
whatever his
on the
name is.
stuff here, actually ends up being one of the most diverse uh, range of species we see for any ruling body, just because it's a
Hmm.
comic, so you can draw whatever you want.
Yeah,
So that's nice.
yeah. And I will say too that my favorite thing about this comic is how much they throw in from the rest of Legends. Like we see
Hmm.
E-wings, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
you famously do love E-wings.
I do love E-wings.
It was weird to me because that the E-wings come up with Rogue Squadron, right? And
Yeah,
at this point, I guess Rogue Squadron is an E and B wing squadron.
yeah, yeah. It was a little weird. But I mean, we get to see the Lusankia as well,
Yeah,
which is really cool. Um,
we see Tycho pretending to be Wedge.
yeah, that was a little weird.
Tycho
Um,
or Wedge's model in this, his art is just it doesn't look like Wedge. It just looks like
no, it doesn't.
both Kirkanos and Carnor Jax. They
Palpatine wasn't very good either.
yeah, it looked like someone put like a concrete texture over just a drawing of a face in After Effects
Hmm.
or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like if you go to the last page, so spoiler alert, but the final issue is this confrontation between Kirkanos and Carnor Jax. Kir knows all of Carnor's secrets. We hear that Carnor, the reason he's a threat to everyone, is he knows the secrets of the ruling council. And
Hmm.
then Kir knows that Carnor kind of like poisoned the Emperor.
Hmm.
So Carnor really wants to take down Kir because he's coming for him. Uh, and we get the end confrontation between Kirkanos and Carnor Jax on Yinkor, where they were trained. And the last shot is like Kirkanos standing over the dead Carnor Jax.
Just
Uh,
masturbating furiously.
well, that, but also like I don't know, their faces look the same to
They
me.
look the exact same. I just scroll up and I'm like, wait, oh wait, he's got the scar. Okay, that is his face because I wasn't sure for a second.
Yeah, like was this supposed to be? Oh God, they're clones or something? Was that the implication they were going for, and then nothing ever happened with that? Because like if someone told me that was
Hmm.
what that was, is like Carnor Jax and Kirkanos are clones of the same person with like Kir having a scar and slightly longer hair and some stubble,
Hmm.
whereas Carnor is clean shaved. Like, yeah, they're clones,
Yeah.
and so is Wedge because Wedge looks the exact fucking same as them.
Yeah, I mean they're even they're even have the same eyebrows. I'm reading an old thread from on Rebel Scum forums about this from 2005. Or people are having this very same discussion, so things never change, I guess. But I mean, that would have been, kind of in line with other things going on
Yeah.
in Star Wars, especially like if this had can't come out a few years later, because there's a lot of like elite soldiers being cloned in
Hmm.
the Thrawn duology.
Yeah, and like
Um,
Dala was going to be a clone template as well
oh,
for
I didn't know that.
stuff.
Interesting.
Like, everyone was going to be a clone
And we
template.
get the clone Sundir Fells,
Yeah.
like 30 of him just running around on some farm world. But yeah, I was also a little confused because it's been a long time since I read this. I was also a little confused about the scene where Sadit is killed, the
Yeah.
lizard, because you don't actually see the sword go into Sadit.
No.
So I was like, is he like taking a knee here?
Whereas you do see Carnor hit Sadit or
Hmm.
just barely miss Sadit. He's got some scales coming off because when Kir and Carnor have their confrontation on Yinkor, they're followed by Sadit, who's the kind of right hand Trandoshan of the rebel leader, and so they come to help Kir kill Carnor because Carnor's got his buddy up there with a sniper on
Hmm.
Kirkanos, but Sin comes in, shoots that guy, and then runs down. They get the idea like, oh, cool, we can capture Carnor, which just seems like a
Hmm.
stupid idea. Another one of her terrible ideas.
Yeah,
And
wannabe
Candace's
Sith
like,
Lord.
no, but they don't listen. and and so Kir, when Sidit tries to stop him from killing Karnor, just kills Sidit because, as he has told them repeatedly, he doesn't like them. He only wants to
Mm-hmm.
kill Karnor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not new information to them. This is not something that Kerr has been kind of coy about. Like, oh, maybe I'll help you. Maybe I like you. No, no. He specifically
Yeah.
says they're not my friends. He says I don't like you. He says I love Palpatine. Hey, Palpatine is someone who I love. Guys, I love Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
And this comes through to Sin as I'm your friend. I hate Palpatine. Let's help the rebels take down the Empire.
Let's be rebels, actually. Yeah.
So there's some miscommunication happening there. It's easy to see how this mistake could happen, how Sin could maybe just not get that, because
Mm.
he was very very vague about his intentions.
He do be having handsome cheekbones.
Sidit, yeah.
No. Well, let me scroll up and check. No.
I like how often there's just like blood resting on the blades. It's very nice
I mean,
blood that they have.
people do be getting stabbed.
Well, yeah.
So trying to think if there's anything in particular I want to talk about for the actual plot.
Well, what do you feel about the flashbacks before we?
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about actually. I will say the scene where so basically after Palpatine is killed and a bunch of the oh, we get a shot of the eclipse as well in this. I forgot the eclipse
Yeah.
too, but probably nicer than the actual Dark Empire art. But after Palpatine is killed and many of the guards on Biss are killed and Luke kills a couple of the guards on Onderon, there's like this all the remaining royal guards go to it is on Union Shore, right, that they return, I think.
Onion Co, yeah.
Yeah, they go there for kind of like to pay their respects, and they end up
Watch
being
old home videos of Palpatine apparently.
yeah, and they're slaughtered by Karnor Jax and his stormtroopers, kind of like an Order 66 against the remaining Crimson Guards, to basically try to cover up everything he did and establish New Order and whatever else. And there's just one panel when the before the guards have taken their weapons out, where they're just like flailing around with their arms out, being shot by stormtroopers, and it looks like a convocation of nuns was being slaughtered or something. um, they're just like they look so helpless, and they're wearing these like basically dresses, and it's just like I felt bad for them for a minute. But other than that, I like the kind of training flashbacks are cool. Classic Empire wasting their best soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they do show with the earlier training, Palpatine shows up and like, oh, thank you guys for all your service to me. I love you. Here's
For
my
sure.
boy Vader. Vader, look at all these nice boys and girls that are going to be fighting for us. And Vader's like, okay, who's your best one? And in true Imperial and Sith fashion, they send forward the best one, and Vader just slams the guy. Which I thought it was kind of weird that Vader did the thing where you like put the pole down and swing around it and kick, because I never really picture Vader as like acrobatic fighter.
That's one problem that I have with Vader in the comics generally, is like he shouldn't be doing flips and stuff. Like there's like in The Empire Strikes Back, or is it Return of the, where he jumps down the flight of stairs and he kind of just like glides down. Like that's the most like that's as mobile as Vader should be. Like he should be swinging around on a stick.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. And like, just stop killing your guys. Like, yeah, he's not as good as you, Vader, but even though he's not, like, he's still the best one there, and maybe the best isn't good enough yet, but you still just killed the one who's probably going to improve the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill, like, literally anyone else. Kill the worst. If you gotta kill someone.
Well, he doesn't kill that guy, does? Oh no, he does. Yeah, he chops his arm off.
Chops his arm off, and then like
punts
I think he kicks him down the well.
fucking-
Yeah.
Maybe they have like just like a chute at the bottom, and he just gets sent back into stormtrooper training. It's like that Robot Chicken sketch where it's like all the Imperial officers pretending to die just to keep Vader's bloodlust in check.
They get the fake mustache and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that reminds me. I I was scrolling through. We also get another prequel Juggernaut appearance in this
Yeah.
comic, which I didn't think about while I was reading, but kind of cool.
Yeah, there's the
Um,
Juggernauts, and I'm not sure if it's just the angle, but the first time it shows up, I think it's the first time. It's like
mhm.
page 14 of issue
You mean the
2.
speeders or the?
Well, there's the speeders, but the Juggernaut's up on the hill, and you can see the
Mhm.
tracks. I'm not sure if those are supposed to be the tie crawlers, because we see tie
Oh
crawlers
yeah,
with
there
them later.
are.
But the
Yeah.
way that image is shown, it looks like they're Juggernauts with tracks rather than,
Yeah, I think they are.
which is a
But it's
different
weird actually
presentation.
because in a later panel they've got wheels.
Yeah, because there is the ones with the tie crawlers later that do have wheels, uh, but yeah,
Hmm. Are those is that chariots with them?
yeah, those are
Uh
Chariot LAVs, and where are we? Page 14. Speeder bikes, tie interceptors, ATSTs. Yeah, it's just the chariots.
hmm. Cool inclusion.
Yeah. The final test for the Royal Guards is also like they were brought up in pairs and they got to
Yeah.
kill their buddy to actually
Hmm.
become the Royal Guards, which again, you're just cutting your workforce in half out of the few who actually survived.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, there were 16 of you, we have 2 slots open." Rather than do what's reasonable and turn this into a reality show with the fan vote, Palpatine just gets them to kill each other.
Yeah, that could have filled the Imperial coffers to a degree. Never or not seen since the which Jedi youngling should we slaughter alive series. Um, that was a good one as well. But yeah, I mean, what another thing that Star Wars kind of always does is it invents new levels of elite guards. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the elite of the elite, but actually, oh, you think the Crimson Guards are elite? Well, we actually have the Sovereign Protectors, and then above the Sovereign Protectors, there's the Super Sovereign Protectors and whatever else. And I think Karnor Jax is a Sovereign Protector. I don't know if it actually says that in this book, but they also reintroduced that as a title within Star Wars canon. That's what they call. It's what Palpatine's guards on Exegol are called, Sovereign
Hmm.
Protectors. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
It means the exact same thing too.
What do you mean?
The Imperial Guards, sovereign protectors.
Yeah, exactly. It's like okay, call something an Imperial Guard, but just without it being as direct. Not Emperor's Guard, Sovereign Protector. There we go.
Then there's the ruler's defenders, just
Yeah.
one step up.
Yeah. Ah, classic. He also has those black suited stormtroopers. I'm not sure if those are like the black hole stormtroopers or if they're even given a name. Do you know what they're only in a few scenes, but
Yeah, I don't know. They're on the cover of one of them as well.
yeah.
Issue 5, and unless those are just supposed to be like stormtroopers in the dark, I don't know what they were. But
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know if they're I think they're called shadow troopers
yeah.
sometimes. I assume they're
There's a
just the
few
same.
different like instances of like either black armored
Oh, there's like
stormtroopers
at
or
least
everything.
like
Yeah,
yeah, like people will make up like black armored stormtroopers and call them something. It's like oh, elite black armored stormtroopers, then forget that like yeah, those actually already
everyone had
existed.
those ideas already.
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure the Nova troopers are black as well and
Yeah,
there's a bunch of them.
like Jedi Knight has a bunch of enemies with like every possible
Mhm.
configuration that's different from their appearances and anything else.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so most of the issues, it's just Sin making poor choices, letting
Yeah.
Kirkanos in, not really caring who he is. They have like the person
There's
who
that
apparently
one
that
bum as
cell
well,
truck,
Mirko.
yeah, Tem Merkin, who
Oh yeah,
gives all
Merkin
their
too.
information away to the Empire repeatedly, like immediately after hearing it,
Yeah,
and that
once
cell has
okay.
never.
Yeah.
The cell has never apparently questioned that maybe the guy who just fucking lives in town, shows up at their base sometimes, who they give all their information to, might be untrustworthy. Like,
Yeah. And like the absolute, I will say, he's an idiot, but the absolute nuts on the guy. He does it multiple times.
yeah.
Like he gets away with it, and he's like, I'm going in for more. It's like, you got your bag, run away. Like,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting him to, like, the Empire to allow him to live even a second time, because we see Cardinal Jax with some of the other, or it's not actually Jax itself, it's the kind of Imperial governor or whomever on the planet. We see him, like, people help him and he still throws him in the brig, so,
Yeah.
or kills him or whatever else. So,
But then he just lets out Sin, theoretically to track her. But I mean, he already
yeah.
knows where Canos is going. He already knows where the rebel cell is. There's no reason for her to be alive except that she makes poor decisions. So maybe that was what he did. Like, oh, you're just gonna. The last time we saw you in a battle, you sent your, like, you sent Blue Squad to just fucking die. And if it
Yeah.
wasn't for Canos jumping in, they would have died.
Yeah, it's like, you're actually a detriment to the Alliance. Like, even if I wasn't going to track you, like, you're better off fucking them up from the inside.
Well, not for nothing. The New Republic has taken over a lot of the galaxy, and apparently they haven't succeeded here yet. So I don't know what that says about.
Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, on that battle, before we move on, though, there was one thing that I thought was a little questionable. How did you feel about shooting through the TIE Interceptor, like, window pane with a pistol?
Yeah, there were a few moments in that battle. That was one of them where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there's one moment where one of the stormtroopers is fighting one of the rebel soldiers, and there's a blaster going off, and it looks like one of the guys is holding a lightsaber, and I stared at that for, like, because he's firing blue. I was like, what the fuck
yeah,
is
I'm actually
going
looking
on
at that
here?
right now. Moved
Yeah.
them too far.
I was like, they've got the rebels have a Jedi, like, that's kind of cool. But yeah, that was a little, I mean, it was kind of cool, but yeah.
I also like how there's a knife fight between her and that other elite trooper who's trying to take over the base, and then no one fucking mentions it ever again. It's like, oh, they're back on the same page now. Because
He realized the error of his ways, and that's that.
he was right.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
He was right about everything.
Like, Kirk Canos this entire time is basically just doing his own shit. Like, he's like, I was gonna leave. Like, I'm just here. Like, this is basically just a bus stop for me. Like, I'm on my way. Like, I'll fight because there's a fight here. But, like, I don't give a shit about anything else. And, like, there's this big, like, debate going on in the Alliance. Like, is he truly gonna help us? Like we think he is. Like, is he our savior? And Kirk Canos is probably just like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Yeah, like they're on their way in, and this conflict between the rebel soldier and Thin comes up because, like, first Jerkinus Merkin finds Kirk Canos, puts him in his basement, and then calls Sin and Sadet over, and Sin says, "Hey, come with us." He's like, "Okay, but I like Palpatine. Don't want to join you." It's like, "Oh, that's fine. Come into our base. You won't tell anyone, will you?" "Yes." "Okay, come in anyways. Tell us who you
probably will if anybody asks. I don't think anyone will ask, but
we have strict security at this hidden rebel cell." "What do you mean someone's found our hidden rebel cell? Everyone evacuate."
we only told this Imperial Royal Guard, literally one of the most elite troopers in the galaxy, and the bum who lives under the Tapcaf. Like, what could go wrong?
It's have you ever worked, like, any kind of fast food or food service job?
I've worked in convenience stores, but never food service.
Did they have, like, was it a chain or anything? Like,
No, it was
okay.
a mom and pop.
So most franchises have the mystery shoppers that'll come in, and
I worked at Smitty's. Does that count? Sorry.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry, continue.
I don't know if you've had experience with mystery shoppers. That's the
No,
main
I
point.
haven't, but continue. Sorry.
Okay. So like, they'll come in, they'll be a regular customer, or everyone and always knows who they are, but they just come in, they make their order, then they report back on like the service and the food and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing Kirk Canos as this rebel base mystery shopper going in and sending reports back to Mon Mothma on their OPSECs. Like, yeah, this is shit. I came up to them wearing stormtrooper armor. They're like, hey, come on in, guy.
They were having a bonfire outside when I arrived.
I was flying into the planet and there was a big neon sign saying rebel base here.
I'm actually their Uber driver worked for the Empire, and like they didn't care. Oh man, yeah.
The guy whose basement I stayed in before I went to the base smelled like Carnor Jax.
It smells like Carnor Jax. Oh man, what did you think of Jax's getup, by the way?
Well, I'm glad they did something so that we could tell who's who, but
Yeah,
it seemed like a bit much. I don't know where he got these modifications done or when he got these modifications done, because this is pretty soon after Palpatine.
that's like the most unbelievable thing about Star Wars. You get a bit of this in the sequel trilogy with Snoke and Kylo, but everyone in the Empire is so fucking extra all the time, like wearing capes, like just fucking having these masks made up, or like appearing only in hologram, and like you'd get bullied relentlessly. The first day Carnor Jack showed up on the job, the fucking like radar technicians on the Strike Fast, or whatever the name of his Star Destroyer, or the Emperor's
He's got
Revenge.
Emperor's Revenge, then Steadfast comes as a second
Steadfast,
one.
right? Strike Fast, is that Thrawn's?
I think that's like a VSD somewhere, but
Anyway, like the second he shows up in that fucking getup, it's like
Parks.
Oh yeah, you're right. People are going to be giving him so much shit. Like
He's wearing a Snuggie. Like let's just call it what it is. It's a fucking Snuggie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am so comfy on my chair.
Don't make fun of my mask. I have bad acne. That's all. I had LASIK. I'm sensitive to the light.
Well, that's part of the whole thing, right? Is you got to make yourself look as ridiculous as possible so that it's just clear to everyone who's in charge. And if you say something about how ridiculous they look, they will kill you.
It's like, you show up on the bridge. It's like, I wonder who's in charge. This guy in the Admiral's uniform, or the guy wearing the full clown getup, complete with cape, lightsaber, and 3-foot crown.
I'm surprised the special editions of Return of the Jedi didn't have like Palpatine with all the bling.
Yeah, I wish we got more shots of Palpatine and his fucking entourage. Those guys, I used to think they were so cool.
That's a Drop of Fire album.
Yeah, it's just like that. That's the Epstein like logs of the Star Wars universe, like Palpatine and his fucking sycophants.
Well, have you seen the Some More News Star Wars? I think
it's like 2 hours long, so I don't know if I remember every minute of it. But yeah,
the Jabba sail barge.
Oh
Ben shows up on Jabba's sail barge logs.
Yeah, Jabba's sail barge logs. Oh, that was another thing I meant to talk about in last episode too. The fucking sail barges on Nal Hutta. It's like Jabba's got a sail barge, so all Hutts actually have sail barges. Come on.
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking about that with the monks after we talked about that, where it's like all Hutt architecture is now like kind of based off of the Jabba's palace, and I'm not sure if I like that better or worse than the idea that like that palace was on Tatooine, belonged to monks, and those monks now work for Jabba. But
well, they don't work for Jabba. They just live. Have you read
They're his roommates?
The one from what's it called?
Tales from
Jabba's Palace.
Yeah,
it's good. They're just living there as well. I mean, it is kind of goofy, but
we had to sublet to Jabba.
Yeah, it's like Jabba pays internet, heat, and electricity.
And all we have to do is put some brains in a jar.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they kind of just vibe in there. So it's like Jabba can do his thing, and they're just gonna vibe in the dungeons. All they're doing is contemplating the universe anyway, so it's like no big deal.
Mm-hmm. There was one frame at the end of issue 1, like where they're just standing on the balcony, and it just didn't feel like the same art style to me, where they're all standing there, and then just the really cartoony
Let me take a look.
buildings.
Let me take a look. Issue 1. I mean, I don't know much about. Oh yeah, there were a few shots like that for the city. That looks like Futurama or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's what it is.
but like I don't know anything about comics, but I'm sure they have basically the comic version of pickup shots where they have like Charlie in his basement throw one together because they forgot to have the main artist do it.
My cousin is actually a colorist
Oh, cool.
for comics. I don't know if I've actually spoken to him like 2 years, but I should see if I can get into contact with him. And
Ask him what he thinks about Dark Empire.
I assume he does think something about Dark Empire. He's got to. So it's a good question.
I bet you he thinks it's pretty cool. From what I understand, Cam Kennedy was one of the like most expensive comic book artists at the time.
Yeah, that's not what I'm laughing at. Go to page 9 on issue 6, the top frame. Because I assume you skimmed past this and didn't give it a proper look on the first go.
Page 9. Okay, just a second.
See, there's a man who's the sniper that the colonel brought. He is not living.
No, I noticed that guy.
The pure fear on this man's face is he's.
Oh man, I mean, I was like, because he's fat, so I was like, is he like one of the captains from earlier or something? But no, who does he look? Oh yeah, he looks like I don't know if you ever watched Attack on Titan before, but he looks like one of the fucking Titans.
No, I have not. Has that been good? I saw you tweeting about it and just like waiting for it to get good, but
it's okay. I don't like anime, so like I don't like the tropes of like people screaming like just an example. So the episode I was just watching, it's like he's in without spoiling too much, kind of one of the early reveals is that the main character can turn into titans, and titans are these big things that are attacking the humanity or whatever. So he gets tried and he's sitting, and it's just like the most anime thing ever, and he's like, they're like delivering on his fate, and he's just screaming, and he's like, "You guys are cowards! I'll do it for everybody!" Everyone's like, "Oh!" And then there's like the anime music's playing, and I'm just like, "This is so fucking dumb!" Like, the show is I like the world building, and the Titans are cool because they're so like uncanny and bizarre, and like the way that the world is set up is neat, but like. I'm trying to figure out whether I can get past the anime bits.
Yeah,
but it's worth a watch. I'd say it's pretty long. Like I'm on season 1, and it's like probably 26 or 27 episodes long. I just remembered watching it as like I watched it when it first came out, and like I think season 1 came out in like 2012 or something, and I remember really liking it at the time. And yeah, I don't remember what captured me. It's better than like, it doesn't have any of like the, I don't, do you ever watch Evangelion or anything?
I've only seen Evangelion.
Which is amazing, but like that show has like some of the weirder anime tropes, like sexualizing like really young kids and stuff. This doesn't have any of that, so you know. But yeah,
they're not actually young kids. They're 9,000 years old.
No, in Evangelion, they're like literally 14 and like naked half the time, and it's I just like I don't get it. Like it doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, it's worth a watch.
Is that one of the ones that has like the comedy Team 4-Star abridged things? Maybe from someone else, not Team 4-Star, but. I feel like there's an abridged Attack on Titan series.
I don't know.
Because Dragon Ball Z abridged is great, but that's over. So.
Yeah. Are they doing one? Do they do one for Super as well?
I think they're just done. I don't know. They might have done one of the movies from Super. But I think it's completely done and ended before they got to anything with the actual run of Super.
Right.
And
Right.
that used to be what I'd look forward to all year, is a new episode of Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Right, because
So,
they would take forever to release ones, but they would be like, when they do like the entire Cell saga in like 1 or 2 episodes. It's been ages since I watched them.
yeah, it'd be like 10 episodes for the major arcs, and I think there were, what, 40 or 40
Uh
plus episodes?
oh,
But
there are 40 episodes of Abridged.
there was a good amount.
That makes sense because I think there's like 4 major arcs, and there's like
Yeah,
the
they went
Saiyan
up
arc, the
through.
Cell arc, the Boo arc, and
I don't think they got to Boo. They definitely did Cell, and I think they ended with the Cell games.
Hmm.
I don't think they did. They might have done it. I might have missed the end of it, but I'm not sure. Either way,
so
Carnor
when are we gonna
Jaxley.
do something like this for a Tapcaf? Like I'm ready to probably do something not Star Wars related for an episode.
Yeah, we can maybe do that after Victory's Price or something, because we'll have a.
Okay. All right, there's Frieza and the androids. Forgot
Yeah.
about the androids.
Well, the androids were like really weird, but they're what led into Cell, because Cell.
Yeah, the
was,
android is basically like, yeah, that's right.
But
Dragon Ball is better than Dragon Ball Z. I'm sorry.
I don't agree.
Bro, you know how hyped I'd get when you'd see like Goku had been training his ass off, and then like it'd be like one of the world tournaments, and he'd come back and he'd be like a full on fucking teenager, and you're like, holy shit, last time I saw this dude, he like almost like blew up a building. Like, how fucking powerful is he gonna be this time?
Yeah. And then it just turned into numbers getting higher that didn't really ever make any sense.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, no,
In
I'm saying that's how it extended.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Because that's the power creep. You could never satisfyingly end that. You know what I mean? But it's like in Dragon Ball, it's like, okay, he climbs, what is it, Korin's tower, I think, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, he's powerful in a way that like you can actually see as a viewer, not just his hair turns a different color.
yeah. Well, that's a power in itself. Like, let's not denigrate.
That would be pretty epic if you could just grunt for like a couple hours and then have different color hair.
Well, my hair like slowly changes color. It's getting whiter and whiter.
Yeah. No, wait till we read. Wait till we finish off the Callista trilogy and then read Crystal Star. I think your hair will be significantly whiter, especially because we'll soon have Corellian trilogy and lots of other fun stuff.
Yeah, like we got to do Victory's Prize. Maybe we'll have a week off of Star Wars after that, and then we've got to do. Is it Planet of Twilight?
Yes,
Or,
that one's. We got another hut. Beldorian this time.
Oh, Beldorian is best Dorian, in my opinion.
His great obesity, Beldorian.
But there was one other point that I wanted to bring up before we move on from our discussion of Crimson Empire itself, which is at one point in the space battle, we are told that Rogue Squadron has damaged, quote, 4 of their shield generators. How many shield generators do they have? What is max shield generator damage?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was just paying attention to the fact that they captured a Star Destroyer. That got me all hot and bothered.
They captured it off screen, though, basically.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
were they talking about Steadfast, or were they talking about Emperor's Revenge with a giant hole blown in it from one bomber exploding? Which is basically what happens. To be fair,
this was before. This happens before the Emperor's Revenge blows up.
Okay,
Yeah.
So they were talking about. I was just unclear on the Steadfast versus Emperor's Revenge capture, because like there's a big. They took a bite at a crime with the Emperor's Revenge.
Yeah, Kurkanosk has one fucking move, and it's pretend to be somewhere he's not, then blow shit up.
Yeah,
like him and Callista would get along really well.
Well, he's got the freighter that has a skip ray in it, so I assume that the rest of the freighter just blows up if he wants it to.
I never realized the skip ray's back wing could flip like that, which I always wondered how the fuck did it land, but I assumed it just had really big front landing struts, and then like it just sat on its tail, but this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
But yeah, I love anytime the skip race shows up because it reminds me of that chase from Heir to the Empire, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Any thoughts for you before we get to our questions? I think.
Yeah, I'm just reading some of my notes there. As usual, very good. I wrote Tapcaf with an E. Ugh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
we should have
wrote.
talked about that right off the bat because usually we comment on the top calf mentions right away,
Yeah,
and
so
that
we get
just
a
slipped
Tapcaf
through.
mention, but the we'll call it the alternate spelling. Am I
Yeah.
right? One of my comments is, "What did you do?" Question mark. My duty. LOL. uh, yeah. I mean, I think we. My last one was in all capitals. They're not my friends. I just love in Star Wars how eventually, if you become allies with someone, at some point the bad guy will refer to them as your friends.
Yeah, your little green friends.
But yeah, that's I mean I enjoyed it. We're joking about it, but I mean it's a comic, so I'm not even going to compare it to the books. I'd say I liked it more than Empire's End, obviously, but probably less than
Yeah,
Dark Empire 1.
I think we're both on the same page there.
I will also mention Dark Empire 1, episode 2 of the fan film that someone's making for it just came out. Have you seen that, Corey?
I have not watched it yet. I have seen that it's out though. It
You
looks
should.
pretty
Have you seen
epic.
the first one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. One thing they did that was kind of cool is for Palpatine they used the Rise of Skywalker appearance for him, so he's not in a young, sexy clone body. He's like in his apparatus.
Hmm.
But the World Devastators look cool in the MC90s and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. Let's see. We have questions.
what about your thoughts before we?
No, I'm kind of on the same page. Like, I enjoyed it more than Empire's End, less than Dark Empire 1. Maybe similar amount to Dark Empire 2, because I think I was kind of out on, like, we
Dark
didn't need to
Empire
keep
2 is
bringing
just so
back.
forgettable.
Yeah, it's like more Palpatine or something. I don't know. But we are going to be heading into the rest of the ruling council and Na
Oh, you know
Manor and
who else
stuff.
shows up next
So,
episode?
yeah,
Oh yeah, No Maynor.
yeah.
Be here next time.
So that'll be fun. Because I do like me some New Jedi Order. But our first question comes from Panos. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He wants to know, do you think we'll ever see EU stories like the NJO or Legacy of the Force in animated form, akin to what DC does for its straight-to-digital/DVD releases, where they adapt different comic arcs? Do you also think we'll ever see the EU return with new publications, even if it's under the Legends banner? I don't see the harm in it, since it really won't confuse anyone invested in buying Star Wars books anyways.
Um, I do agree that if you're at the point where you're buying Star Wars books, as long as they're not, it's hard. Here's the thing: it's like it's an opportunity cost thing. Is how
Mhm.
I've kind of come to realize it. Like, yes, it is the point. It is true that they're not going to confuse most people who are reading Star Wars books. However, they're also probably not going to advertise any EU books to the same degree, probably because they don't want to bring in general fans and confuse them. So the opportunity cost thing comes with, okay, now you're dedicating publishers and editors to books that you are just not going to fully advertise, and you're not going to want the general Star Wars audience to pick up on. So it's kind of like self-defeating. So as much as I do think it's a good idea and I think it would work perfectly, I don't think it's likely we'll see novels, at least. Maybe comics. I mean, we get the Old Republic going, but
Yeah,
yeah.
and like we got Marvel 109 or whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't think there's any real chance of like
I think it was
getting
108. Sorry.
whichever. I think there's 109 actually. I think there is another one that is coming out.
Oh, really?
I might be making that up, but I think the chance, like maybe we'll get something like that continuing on existing arcs, and there's some stuff like Tor that's ambiguously in both
Hmm.
until we kind of get more solidified uh, earlier on in the timeline. But it does seem like there a lot of what they want to focus on is kind of these bigger projects
Hmm.
and advertising that, having that tie in with other stuff. So I don't think it's likely that we get like Christy
Mhm.
Golden dusting off the old Sword of the Jedi trilogy.
Yeah.
So
I will say this has been something that, like, I'm not one of those Lucasfilm does this blah 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 blah. One thing that actually really bothered me is when Star Wars 108 came out. Matt Martin, because people are being really positive about it. For one, I, as a fan of the classic Marvel comics, I loved 108. I thought they did a phenomenal job with it.
mhm.
Um, I really liked it, and people online were pretty hype about it too. And someone tweeted about it, and I remember Matt Martin just retweeting and being like, "Well, like, yeah, but you could just tell this comic is like he linked the like the comic sales chart. He's like, yeah, like you say that it would be successful, but you look, it's only at like 20th of the month or whatever." I was just like, I didn't say anything, but yeah, it's only 20th at the month. But 108 also got very little publicity besides
Mhm.
for a couple of Facebook posts. Like, I do think there's a market for it, but I think right now regular Star Wars books and comics are selling really well. Like Star Wars books now, The High Republic was number one on it debuted at number one on New York Times bestseller, and there's only, I think, two or three Star Wars books that were not novelizations to do that. I think only one in Legends. Like even the original Thrawn trilogy books, most of them hit number one, but they didn't debut at number one. So yeah.
Yeah, and
They're
like
selling
you,
well. There's no.
with all that stuff doing as well as it has, and then the fact that anything new that you introduce, you're probably just because of how resources get allocated, that's going to mean doing less of the new stuff. And like
Hmm.
we're still relatively early on
Yeah.
in the publication of the new canon, so cutting that in half to kind of split it between Legends and canon, or even having some of that break off, is probably not something they're big on doing right now. Especially
Hmm.
because you still do need some work from like the story group, or some use of resources of the story group, or
Yeah.
others, because like all of that stuff still did exist in the later periods of Legends. Like Leland Chi was still doing a lot of that as like the holocron before the story group itself was made, but after the holocron was made.
Hmm.
So there's still work that has to be done on handling the continuity, handling the advertising, uh, budgeting, just how the projects are going to work. So I don't think it's especially likely. I think with kind of like the initial question of like how DC does those animated versions of other arcs,
Hmm.
uh, may like I don't think
It's
we'd
a good
see that
idea. I
of
mean,
like novels. I could see maybe something with comic arcs because a lot of the visuals are already there and decided rather than having to kind of re-storyboard all of the NJO and everything because that's more
I think the
resources.
Thrawn trilogy could have gotten it
Hmm.
because it is so well known, but not now that they've done what they've done with TV shows like Mandalorian and
Yeah.
stuff.
But in like comic books, DC, Marvel, like the stuff that originates as a comic book,
Hmm.
there's more of an understanding of how like different continuities, different resets work, uh, than how it is with some kind of like sci-fi, fully established, expanded universes. Like even if there's a major reset once or twice for them, like Star Wars and Star Trek kind of had in different forms, but you usually see only like one active continuity at a time.
Hmm. No, yeah, I agree. I'd like it. I really like the DC idea. I don't think it's gonna happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Good question though.
And there was another similar question that kind of gets back to some similar points here. So we'll go to that one next from Tristan, who says, "Hello, just want to start out with saying I love your podcast. I've been listening to it for about a year now. Email more often, but I usually listen while I'm doing other things and often forget. Fair enough. Glad you enjoy it. My question
Hmm.
to you guys, though, is one I've wanted to ask for a while. It's not terribly relevant to the current book you're reading, but I figured it'd be interesting nonetheless. The question originated from a series of YouTube videos about how the old EU Clone Wars had more and the more modern The Clone Wars do not fit in with each other. I was wondering what your opinions on that were, and if you think the Clone Wars should be strictly canon and have no place in Legends."
You talked about this before. I'm gonna let you answer this one because I think you mentioned this and we talked about this before at the end of episodes.
Yeah, so this is something that actually gets picked on a lot, or picked up on a lot by people that like, oh, the Clone Wars, like George Lucas and Filoni's version of it here, has too many inconsistencies with the old Clone Wars multimedia project, which included like the first cartoon from 2003, and a lot of the books and all that. And there's especially complaints about like the Mandalorians and how they were handled. But
Mhm.
on the topic of it being inconsistent, the answer is yes, it is inconsistent. But a lot of the times the framing of this discussion is as if this is the only time it's happened or like a major difference compared to other differences, when the Clone Wars in particular has always had very inconsistent handling within the expanded universe. uh,
Mhm.
it's it is true that like the multimedia project was fairly consistent within itself, but if you're going to pick on any specific thing for being inconsistent with other stuff, then there's not really a reason to pick on the fact that the Clone Wars, as in the second set of the cartoon and the books that went along with that, uh, were somehow less correct, especially when it's George Lucas that was primarily the driving force behind a lot of the original stuff for it, and then Dave Filoni kind of executing on what he wanted. Because, like, if you look at X-Wing, then you get a very different picture of the Clone Wars, or any of the other post-Endor novels, early Bantam books. You get a very different picture of the Clone Wars than what we got in the prequels and in the multimedia project, which then gives a somewhat different, but like different in a lot of specifics, but somewhat consistent
Mhm.
with the 2008 show. Uh, and like, sure, there's the addition of Ahsoka. There's a changing timeline of like when Anakin becomes knighted, when certain ships are introduced, but that was already inconsistent between the multimedia project and like RPG source books and other stories that had come before it. So if you look at the inconsistencies between the different Clone Wars presentations in the context of what was already there, then it doesn't make much sense to say that the later one is somehow more, or somehow less correct than the inconsistencies that already existed between the MMP and the stuff that had come before that, or the prequels and the stuff that had come before that.
Mhm.
So you're kind of working on an already moving goalpost, and it often feels like it's just, if you look at when anything gets introduced in Star Wars, there's always a group of people who say, this is the thing that ruined Star Wars, or this thing is shit. And usually it moves away from that eventually. It's just the Clone Wars kind of stuck with it for a bit longer because it was kind of the last big thing in that period. But if you look at the stuff that was introduced there, a lot of things that came after that, like the Essential Guide to Warfare, other essential guides that are like, no one would ever question that they are part of Legends. They include all the same information as was in the Clone Wars, and a lot of it does a pretty good job at smoothing over some of the inconsistencies. So that's kind of always been my take on it. I just talk for like 5 minutes
Yeah,
straight.
I
Sorry, Eck,
mean,
but
no, it's. I think everything you said is 100% right. The only thing I'll add is like Star Wars Legends is always being overruled by, um, like the wider audience projects.
mhm,
Like if you see, like Revenge of the Sith and the prequels generally basically ignored almost everything that happened in Legends. So
mhm.
it's nothing new. I guess that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Like if you start saying that, oh, this shouldn't count because these other things are slightly different, then where do you draw the line? It's really
Yeah.
just,
Like the
yes, there's
prequel Jedi
inconsistencies.
and the
Yeah.
Jedi as in the Bantam books we've been talking about are completely different. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you just get the source books, they retcon some stuff, they
yeah.
explain some other stuff, they smooth it out. It's like, I feel like a
And they
lot of the
spent a lot of time smoothing
inconsistencies,
out the Clone Wars as well.
yeah. Like I feel like once you actually engage with some of those explanations and kind of like think about the specifics of what's been different between them, it's not that huge of a difference. Like a
Mhm.
few months off and a few different events, a few new characters, a few changes in what people are doing, but it's not the biggest issue in the world, especially because Legends did have like kind of the tiered system of, if there's a contradiction, movies, then the Clone Wars, because that is still George Lucas's input
Mhm.
involved there, then books, then like games, then like Marvel comics and stuff.
Mhm.
But
No, that's a good. I think that's a good
yeah,
summary.
all right.
There it is.
Do you have the mailbox open, or should I
Yeah,
just keep
I
going?
think we got one final email from Justin.
All right.
Justin's got a few questions. First of all, rest in peace to his old email account. He lost it. Um, his first question is he's got some questions about Darksaber. He's wondering how the unified remnant produced stormtrooper armor so fast. I mean, The Empire's got some pretty crazy production facilities. Like, yeah, they're not pumping out shit at their full potential, but I mean, they were building Star Destroyers as well. Um, so I guess that's the only way you can really explain that. Um, he also mentions that every single story in Darksaber is essentially a bunch of B plots, but he likes how that happens because it shows just how many important things happen in a short amount of time. Um, Fair enough. That's a subjective thing. I mean, I don't think that was one of her main complaints, but I think the issue was some of them are just kind of go nowhere, like Luke's.
Yeah, like
Um,
I feel like the point of like it shows how many important things can happen at the same time. My counterpoint there would be like the Wamp is not important. I don't know that any of the plots are
mhm.
actually that important when you consider what happens in them. So I think
Yeah,
that was more the issue we took with it was that like yeah, there's a lot of different stuff going on and it's not necessarily all interconnecting and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the end of the day, none of them had really any impact
yeah.
whatsoever.
They're filler for a book that doesn't need filler because it's already got a
Yeah.
lot going on. Um, the final thing I'll say is he's talking about with how much easier Darksabers to produce than a Death Star. I was actually ran an RPG where the main focus was destroying a place where the Empire was trying to mass produce them. Uh, that sounds like a fun idea. I mean, the Darksaber as a whole kind of makes sense. I think it's just don't build it with like slave labor and you know Apple IIs.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it's a stripped down Death Star and then it yeah, gotta defend it. Gotta yeah.
yeah. Were there
Uh
any other questions for this
yeah,
episode?
we do have two more emails. There is one from Dakota who was asking in Fate of the Jedi, Jag and Dala have their fight and uh, whether there's a Praetor 2 battle cruiser in that battle. I
I
don't
don't remember
think it
that.
was established by that point. Um,
Is he
and I
talking
don't
about when
remember.
they're fighting in the asteroid field?
Yeah, I think this might be Exodo 2, but I think it was Megador that was there. I don't think there
Yeah,
was a
I'm pretty sure
Praetor.
Megador is there. I don't think Praetors really get mentioned. I can't
Yeah.
think of any time a Praetor gets mentioned. You hear battle cruiser mentioned generally, but usually that's just another word
Yeah.
for Star Destroyer.
Then we did get another question from Joel, who asked, "How do you feel overall about the New Republic using Star Destroyers in their navy?" Well, I love the image of the Lucenkia with the New Republic symbol under Wedge's command for coolness sake in Crimson Empire. I have issues overall with the New Republic using Imperial Star Destroyers as a normal part of their fleet, at least not when the New Republic is desperate for ships. It sends the wrong message to the galaxy, and I can understand the ideas of trying to co-opt and recapture certain symbols in the way the Empire and towards the Republic. I feel like these ideas and concepts are not played with enough in Legends to justify it for me.
Uh, I mean, you get a bit of that when the Star Destroyers, when that one Star Destroyer is named the Anakin Solo.
Mm-hmm.
I like it just because I think it just makes sense within the universe. Like the New Republic has to become a government overnight. Um, like you get the fact in NJO Core, you did a video about this, where the New Republic doesn't do things with Star Destroyers that the Empire did. Like they don't orbitally or do orbital bombardments is a big thing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, they still call them Star Destroyers, but I don't know. I just think it makes sense. They need Star Destroyers. I think it's a cool kind of taking of an Imperial symbol and using it. Um, and like it's something that Legend does pretty consistently. Like the New Republic usually has Star Destroyers in their fleets.
Yeah, like I tend to prefer. I know Eck is like the opposite side of the spectrum on this because he only uses Star Destroyers whenever he's playing as the New Republic in Thrawn's Revenge. But I
Dude,
tend
it's
to
fucking
prefer
hard
them
on
using their
cruel
own
AI
ships.
on Admiral.
I know. Uh, but like I tend to prefer them using their own ships. I do like having some mixed in because it kind of highlights how the galaxy's just been at war for so long, and it's hard
Mm,
to actually build up their navies at this point. So there's an element of just everyone using whatever they can in the post Endor
mm.
period, whereas in the Clone Wars, it's a lot more. There's a lot more emphasis on. It's more organized. It's easier for us to do our war stuff if units are more consistent and like the CIS is working towards organizing as the war goes on. Uh, and like more
Yeah.
standardization is better versus like mad scramble for whatever resources anyone can get during the war with the Empire and then the Yuzon Vong War when it's like whatever we have, just throw someone in it and fly it at the Vong because we're all dying here. But
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it makes a lot more sense. Like Solo Command, for example, uses 2 or 3 Star Destroyers in it plus an interdictor.
Hmm.
Well, they don't really have the interdictor, but like that makes sense because at that time period, they are so like it's so recent to the fall of or to the Battle of Endor that like they just can't pump out ships, and there's that little period where they don't have like the next generation like starships. They're still
Yeah.
relying on rebel vessels. Um,
Well, they're
like
having large swaths of the galaxy that are joining them, and that would include a lot of these forces. So it's not even that they're all just captured. So when you have
mhm,
all these sectors joining and bringing some
mhm.
of these forces just wholesale to the New Republic, it would probably be seen as financially irresponsible to scrap them all, strip them down, and rebuild them into nebulas or something. Uh,
Yeah.
and
And
like,
plus, they just don't have the infrastructure probably that early
yeah,
on, anyway.
I do like how they handle the Starhawk. This is something that Joel mentioned in the email, where it's like there's some
Mhm,
captured, but mostly on the verge of needing to be scuttled Star Destroyers that get built into something new that's a symbol of something different.
mhm.
So I do like that, but I can understand where a lot of the use is coming from in the very Star Destroyer heavy Legends fleets as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen as there's been a few New Republic Star Destroyers in canon, but not nearly
Mhm.
as many. Because yeah, a lot of them did get scuttled, or sometimes the weapons were just stripped off and put on other ships or whatever.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that much of the New Republic actually at war with what was there of the Empire after Endor and after
No.
Jakku as well. Because like there's a large period of time there that's kind of empty, and we know there were some active warlords and
Hmm.
Sloane
Even Alphabet
especially.
Squadron is before
Yeah,
Jakku, so yeah.
but yeah, I think that's all the emails for today.
Yep.
So if people have any questions about anything we talked about today or in general or for Crimson Empire 2 for next week, you can email us at tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com. We will do our best to answer as many as possible.
Ooh, let me
But,
check the reviews real quick. Sorry.
ooh, yeah. No, we need to check the reviews, see if there's any greasy wet bubs in there. But,
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Um, we did have good podcast. Oh no, that this is the one that generated it. This was Wet Bub Would Be Proud, so I think that's an old one. We
yeah.
got 5 out of 5 from L Crusher. Says these guys are kind of cool, I guess.
Oh,
Um, we got one from JS Thomas who says the commentary is great. The reviews are accurate, and hearing about the escapades of Incel Luke and Thirsty Boy Corn has been a blast. Uh,
those are our nicknames. Those are our rap names.
Thirsty Boy Luke, with your man. Or sorry, Thirsty Boy Corn, with your man Incel Luke. But yeah, thanks for all the reviews, guys. Again, it really helps out if you guys can smash that 5-star button on your favorite podcast provider. Leave a nice little review for the boys. Means a lot. Um, or else I don't know. I don't have any real threats I can give.
Well, after this, I believe for those of you watching live, Mr. Eckhart's Ladder is going to be playing some Thrawn's Revenge over on X2. That is
Hmm.
that what the poll result was, or is it going to be Hitman?
Yeah, it's gonna be Thrawn's Revenge. We've eliminated the Ariadu the Ariadu Authority, and we finally got a nice little base. We're starting to actually build ships again. We've got about 13 Imperial Star Destroyers captured on the front lines. So yeah.
Yeah, so we are. Uh, Eck is going to be doing that now. Maybe I'll show up in chat or even on voice later. Wouldn't that be exciting, everyone? But probably not. Yeah. So enjoy that, Eck. Enjoy your nights, everyone, and live long.